That is what we commonly refer to in Atlanta as spazzing out. What?
You know what they say, Steven? They scared money don't make money.
Every year, people continue to make excuses for Tony Romo. They continue to lower the bar.
You got Tupac, you got Biggie, you got Jay-Z, you got Eminem. I'm gonna go with Tupac.
I've never been an athlete, but I have been a leader of men.
Look at that duo. We now welcome rapper, producer, Atlanta superfan, friend of the show, T.I. to the desk. Tip, thank you so much for being here with us.
Good seeing you, big boy.
Hey, man, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Right on.
So you have
Likewise.
a new EP out, Us or Else, available exclusively on Tidal. Can you tell us about that new music and what message you want to send?
Well, it premiered exclusively on Tidal. It's now available everywhere where music is streamed and bought as we speak. And the message is basically, I just wanted to use my platform to create some healthy dialogue, man, to institute some change in the nation.
Now, when you say that, speak specifically about what change you would like to assist in instituting. Well, what's on your mind?
I want to institute change in the nation as far as the inequalities and the oppression that exists in America. And I mean, of course, we can't help but notice the consistent atrocities that continue to plague our communities as far as policemen overstepping the boundaries of their duties and stepping out of abusing their powers to kill and murder.
Talk to me about the level of sensitivity that you had, and just for the purposes of this show, I want to let everybody know this. You're a friend of the show. You've been on this show on many occasions, as we highlighted, and we're not going to revisit all the stuff that's going on with you because we've done that on this show and beyond. We don't owe that to our audience anymore. But I feel compelled to bring this up because one of the incidences that you had was with a police officer back years ago, you know, something in some Florida mall and all of this other stuff. So you've had history with police officers.
Absolutely.
I need you to talk about what you're trying to say and how those personal experiences you endured have influenced you, touching on this now.
Well, see, that's one thing that I think that you brought up that you know, is very, very key, because the law enforcement community and the government of America always preaches highly upon accountability when it comes to citizens who break the law and how they should be held accountable and brought to justice, and nobody should slip through the cracks. And, okay, but when it comes to police officers, their accountability is a lot less highlighted. You know, they don't necessarily think that they should be held accountable. Like, you know, I know when I have had my transgressions, it's always been, okay, you're gonna accept responsibility, you're gonna hold yourself accountable, you're going to endure or withstand whatever adversities or punishment that there is to follow
community
this,
service or jail,
whatever it is, and you're gonna go through it and come out on the other side better. But whenever you have the opportunity for them to do the same thing, it's all but nothing.
I've heard you say support the idea of federal oversight, at least, for local police departments. Is that because a lot of, I mean, obviously this goes on in big cities too, and there are many examples, but oftentimes you'll see one of these bad encounters, and you get the sense that maybe it's a small-town police department where they don't have the kind of training maybe or the applicants that they might have in a more metropolitan area, so there's uneven policing? Or why? Why do you think there should be federal oversight of local police?
Well, I think that if you have local jurisdiction over local policing, then it kind of makes it difficult for a fair and just process to be taken. I think that the same way back in the late 80s, early 90s, the same way that the crack law had been instituted due to the amount of atrocities that crack cocaine had plagued the community with, and they felt that it was necessary to upstream crack cocaine into a mandatory minimum status on a federal level. The same way they instituted the mandatory possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, a mandatory 5 years on a federal level because of how much gun violence had taken place to plague the nation. That is the same state of an epidemic crisis that we are in right now with police brutality.
So in other words, federal an epidemic crisis?
Absolutely, it's an epidemic crisis. How can you not have an epidemic crisis when you have innocent people losing their lives on a consistent basis? I mean, that is what we constitute an epidemic crisis.
So in other words, there are examples of when the federal government intercedes and imposes their authority on local jurisdictions if we as a society believe that it's important enough.
Absolutely.
And that this issue, you feel, as a society, we have not come to a consensus yet that it's important enough.
Absolutely. But you know why? Because in those other cases, that happened when, forgive me for saying, but when the epidemic started affecting white people. When crack cocaine reached out into the suburbs, when gun violence started affecting white homes, that's when, okay, it's
That's interesting because in the NFL, the protests, which, Kaepernick's been on the record and many have been on the record, look, this is a domestic sporting event. We didn't interject politics into it. National anthem. The league did that in a show of patriotism. So since we're interjecting, it's not like an international event where we're showing one face as a nation.
Right.
So we're going to protest a domestic issue.
Sure.
And the reason that actually might have traction is because then that does start to affect everybody's lives, right? Oh, man, I just want to watch a football game and hear politics are coming into my world.
I don't want to hear about the innocent minorities who lost their lives along the way to make it into the people who didn't make it to see the football season opening. You know, I'm sure Philando Castile and I'm sure that Alton Sterling, I'm sure they were football fans. I'm sure they would have loved to see some games.
Freddie Gray, the list goes on and on.
I mean, and I don't think that for us to say it's not time for us to deal with this, and we don't want to think about this right now. I mean, how could you say that about the loss of life?
Well, this is one of the things that you're focused on. My question to you is, would it be the only thing? And before you answer, hear where I'm coming from with this. The actions of brutality on the part of some police officers is something that cannot be ignored against minorities. There is no doubt about that. But we've also got a situation where there are a lot of black lives that are being lost, period. Chicago, as well as various other cities in this country. So as an artist, when you focus on some of the problems ailing our community, is this your focus, or are you focusing on all of that? Not just what happens to us, but what we're also doing to each other from time to time.
Well, absolutely. I do believe that, unity is necessary. I do believe that. But also, you cannot use excuses like that to give people an out as to how they cannot correct themselves, because there's negatives everywhere in our nation. And when they use the term black on black crime, I actually heard this right here on ESPN. Yes. When they use the term black on black crime, they completely take away the notion of white people who kill white people. There's no white on white
Dr. Michael
crime.
Eric Dyson, when we did the show in Chicago, he said
Absolutely.
whites are killing whites, Latinos are killing Latinos.
Absolutely.
It's neighbor on neighbor, so why are you focusing on black on black?
There's no white on white crime. There's no brown on brown crime. It's only black on black crime. So why are we focusing so much on that and not focusing on the violence that who proceeds to exist in America? I
totally agree with you, but let me tell you why I asked that question. Because I often say to a lot of white folks that I work with, it's a numbers game too. When I'm on my radio show, for example, it's a numbers game. White folks make up 66% of the population. The Latino folks make up 17% of the population. The voting bloc that they have makes up about 27% of the population. If black folks are at 13% of the population, then because of the low number that we are, it profoundly affects us more so than it may affect other communities because our numbers are dwindling. That's my argument. What's yours?
I mean, I think that numbers definitely have something to do with it, but also the position that the communities have been put in. I believe that there have been staggering examples of how the African-American communities have been targeted targeted from the Contra scandal that led to the crack epidemic, that led to the war on drugs, that led to
mass incarceration,
the mass incarceration, that lead to police brutality. That, like, I mean, time after time after time, we have insufficient education in our communities. We have less opportunities as far as financially.
You're talking about structural. Institutional responsibility, and whenever this conversation comes up and people are talking about that structural and institutional, structural inequality based on institutional behavior in the past, we all know the history of this country. We know why black people are per capita less educated, less employed, et cetera, because of the pernicious effects of institutional racism, institutional racism, sorry. So whenever that conversation is brought up, you always hear voices talking about personal responsibility, and it's not that that's illegitimate, but that's not the conversation it seems that you're having. You're talking about institutional issues.
I do truly believe in personal responsibility, but when one takes personal responsibility and continues to have doors shut in their face and the goal line move whenever they think that, okay, well, this is what I have to do to take personal responsibility for myself, and this is what I have to do to institute change in my life, and they do that, and then the goalposts move.
Right.
And then the doors are shut. And then all of a sudden, now you have to deal with a police officer who's asking you why you're walking home from a job interview that you just got rejected from. And now you're supposed to handle yourself like a model citizen. Like, I don't understand how personal responsibility can come up when that is being taken and when accountability is being accepted and there's still no progress made in generations. The same things we're talking about now. You know, I listened to some tapes as I was recording my EP. The one thing I wanted to do is include some of our famous leaders who had spoken on our behalf over time. And I listened to a tape of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King,
Edgar Evers.
I did not hear Edgar Evers and Minister Farrakhan, but anyway, so Malcolm X is talking about police brutality as though he's talking about it right after Freddie Gray. It seems like he's talking about it right after Freddie Gray. Like, the things that he's talking about
still happen.
It's still happening. He's talking about the racial divide and the systemic inequalities in America. He's talking about it as though he's living right here today.
Decades later, it's the same reality.
The crazy thing is the crazy thing is it actually has likely gotten much better. Now think about how bad it must have been if it's still like this now.
Or now we're just seeing it with camera phones and things like that.
Right,
we're more aware of it now.
We're more aware of it.
Guys, I'm sorry to cut you off. We do have to take a quick break, but I appreciate you continuing the dialogue with your music, your message, using your voice, Us or Else, and Title and Beyond. People can check that out. But your Falcons, can we talk about that? Can we go on the field next?
Absolutely. This is a wonderful week to talk about the Falcons.
You don't want to talk about it.
Absolutely. I would love to.
We're going to have
Today, let's talk about the Falcons.
Contenders, you will tell us that when First Take returns. Stay here.
You're watching First Take, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
T.I. still with us on behalf of his new EP, Us or Else, available exclusively on Tidal and Beyond. Big Atlanta sports fan, and your Falcons are off to a 3-1 start after beating the Panthers 48-33 last week behind over 500 yards passing by Matt Ryan. Unreal. 300 yards receiving by Julio Jones. Tip those Falcons. Super Bowl this year? What do you think? Can it happen?
See, that's the thing, you see. Every time the Falcons have a monumental week, everyone begins to say, hey, are they Super Bowl? Hey, let's just get to the next week. We have to focus on the Broncos.
You know, this is bad.
We have to focus on Von Miller.
Yes, you do.
We got to focus on Von Miller and the Broncos.
This is bad for you. He knows where I'm going with this. This is bad for you. This is bad for you. You see, usually, Max, you don't notice, when T.I. and I run across one another, it's always when the Falcons are doing well. And then he's smiling, he's chilling out, and then he puts the Mac on, he relaxes, he does the, he does the gangster lean, and like, we got this. He forgets we're talking about Atlanta here, which is practically allergic to winning. You had the Braves that went to the World Series about 14, 15 times, won World Series.
Wait a minute.
The Atlanta Hawks ain't won a damn thing.
You jinx
the Falcons has, of course he's jinxing them.
No, you jinx him. You jinx him.
Tip is sitting there going, now why you want to go and do that?
I'm just why
you want to go and do that?
That's what it is.
See,
and I understand.
See, now listen, man. Now, what you're doing is you are hoping that we adopt a loser's mentality.
Actually, that's not true.
No,
that's not true.
Now you can lose. That doesn't make you a loser unless you accept.
Only by the definition of the word.
Unless you accept a loser's mentality, you become a loser when you assume you're going to lose.
Finally,
even
someone
before
said something intelligent on this show.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, how about this? What are you gonna do? Like, you look at this team, the offense can take care of business, obviously.
Right.
What about this defense, Tip? What's up with the defense? Can they be good enough to actually make a postseason run?
I think we have to get past the first round to see that.
Being a little bit cautious this time around. I mean, last time they were in a similar position, Max, he was sticking out. We got this. We gonna be all right. Wait and see. It seems like you learned your lesson. Just a touch.
But that, I consider myself moderately intelligent, and I do know that the definition of insanity is going about the same thing the same way and expecting a different result.
That's true.
So therefore, I am going to modestly and humbly say we're doing very, very well right now, and I have all the faith in the world in them, and I believe that should they wake up every Sunday ready to play and Monday, that they can make it to the postseason.
What about your quarterback?
Once we make it past there, he's the #1 in the league.
No question. Right now he is. But I would describe Matt Ryan until this season as a B+ who sometimes gets mistaken for an A. Is he now? But so far this year, he's the best quarterback in football.
Sure.
No question about that. Is that a mirage, or is he actually now the best quarterback in football?
Well, he's actually now the best quarterback in football. I mean, now will he be persistent and consistent with his? Yeah, will he be consistent with his playing? That has yet to be seen. I believe he can. I believe he has the tools and the talent to do so.
I think
that the actions will have to show us there.
You know why I need to pause you? Because I have the schedule. Let me read the schedule to you.
I've seen the schedule too. I've seen the schedule too.
He turned to his right and closed his eyes because it's hurting him right now. Let me just read the schedule right here, Tia. At Denver.
Yes.
At Seattle. That's the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
That's the next 2 weeks.
I'm not concerned about Seattle.
Oh.
I'm not concerned about Seattle.
Oh.
At Seattle.
I'm not concerned about Seattle.
At Seattle.
I'm concerned about Denver.
I'll be looking. I'm going to be looking for you in 2 weeks. That's ridiculous what you just said. That's almost blasphemous.
Listen,
you're not worried about Seattle at Seattle?
No, I am not.
Why not?
I mean, simply because I feel that Atlanta has a habit of winning the games that they're supposed to lose and losing the games they're supposed to win.
That's fair.
They have a great offense.
That's how I know Atlanta.
Seattle's offensive line might make Atlanta's defense look decent.
The games they're supposed to win and the games they're supposed to lose.
But see, now you're just being mean. You know,
I'm being factual. They haven't been relevant for the last couple of years, man.
But this is not true. This is not true.
What am I missing?
Because we've had the same conversation the last couple of years.
What am I missing?
And they made it to the playoffs, all except last year.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. The Atlanta Falcons have been a huge disappointment the last couple of years.
Listen, man. Listen. Hey, have you toured the new dome?
You know, that's the problem. You know what? That's the damn problem right there. That's the problem right there.
You sound like a PR dude right there. Let's talk about the team.
They need a dome.
Always got to speak positive.
Do you know that in a half an inch of snow caused traffic jams for hours in Atlanta? This is why they need a damn dome.
Not used to snow.
A half an inch? Yeah. A half an inch caused hours of traffic jams.
We also have ice storms. It's the ice that actually shuts the city down more so than the snow.
Hills and all of that. Y'all living in the burn.
Zone 1, Zone 6.
Hey, you know what? You look very comfortable in Atlanta when I see you. You look very comfortable. You enjoy yourself a lot. You enjoy yourself a lot in my city. You know what I'm saying?
wonder why.
That is true. That is. I cannot deny that.
You enjoy yourself
I can't deny that.
a lot in my city.
The Falcons are 3-1. The rest of the division, including the Panthers, 1-3. Real quick, before we let you go, can we get your thoughts on the Warriors? Stephen A. said it was the weakest move ever by KD to join them. Where do you stand?
I said it was the weakest move by a superstar.
Okay, apologize. Weakest move by a superstar.
I think that it was a very, very, very controversial move, and I think that it took a lot. It took a lot for KD to make that decision. And it's very easy for us to say that right now in the off season. But should they get to clicking and should they become the best basketball team of the year, I think that will, the same as it did with LeBron. When LeBron went to Miami.
I got to stop you. I got to stop that.
The same as it did, but the only thing is they were just beaten by the Warriors in the postseason.
There we go. And the Warriors team that was 73-9 that you had up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
LeBron went from Cleveland to Miami. They got bounced in the first round. There was still KG and those boys in Boston.
Right.
I mean, come on.
They made a super team.
Stop it.
Then he saw Kyrie and the number one pick and made another super team.
I think KD had already made a decision to leave, and I think there was only one choice for him to go to. Honestly.
One of the three best players in the world going.
I just think they had an internal disagreement.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate it. Us or Else, download it now.